Right now, this very second, roughly 2.25 billion cups of coffee are being consumed around the world. 2.25 billion! That's roughly 1 cup for every 3 people on the planet, every single day. But here's what nobody ever tells you in the coffee commercials. The only reason any of that is possible is because some goats went absolutely feral on the hillside in Africa over 1,000 years ago. And then powerful men across 3 continents spent centuries trying to stop it. They failed spectacularly. This is the full story, from a wild berry nobody had ever heard of to the second most traded commodity on Earth. Okay, so let's go back, way back. We're talking the 9th century, somewhere around 850 AD. We're in what is now Ethiopia, in a region historically known as Qahveh. And at this point in history, this plateau is just a plateau. Gorgeous, foggy, ancient, and full of wild coffee trees that nobody is paying any attention to. Enter a guy named Kaldi. Now, historians will tell you that Kaldi is most likely a legend. He's not a confirmed historical figure, but he is the founding myth of coffee, so we're going with it. Kaldi was a goat herder, and one afternoon, he's doing what goat herders do, wandering around the Ethiopian plateau, following his flock, when he notices something is seriously wrong with his goats. They are absolutely losing it. They're jumping around, they're doing little goat parkour, they're not sleeping at night. So he follows them, watches what they're eating, and he finds them going absolutely to town on these small, bright red berries from a tree he'd walked past 100 times and never thought twice about. The moment. Here is the moment. Kaldi tries the berries himself, and, well, he feels fantastic. According to the legend, Kaldi takes these berries to a nearby Sufi monastery, and the head monk takes one look at them, decides they must be some kind of devil fruit, and throws them into the fire. As the berries hit those hot coals and start to roast, the most incredible smell begins drifting through the monastery. That warm, toasted, rich caramel coffee smell, you know exactly the one I'm talking about. And the monks, being monks but also being humans, rake those roasting beans out of the fire, they grind them up, they dissolve them in hot water, and they discover they can stay awake through hours of nighttime prayer. Hey, real quick, I want to ask you something actually interesting. If coffee had never been discovered, like if Kaldi's goats had just walked past that tree that day, what drink do you think would have taken its place and shaped history instead? Drop your answer in the comments. I'll read as many as I can. From Ethiopia, coffee crossed the Red Sea into Yemen, and this is where it stops being folklore and starts being documented history. By at least the 15th century, Sufi monks in the Yemeni highlands were cultivating coffee deliberately. They called the drink Qahveh, and they were using it for exactly the same reason the Ethiopian monks had, staying alert through long, demanding nights of prayer. But Yemeni traders were sharp. They figured out almost immediately that they had something extraordinary, a product that people would come back for over and over because caffeine is mildly addictive. So they started shipping coffee out through a small port on the Red Sea, a port you might actually recognize, Mocha. Yes, that Mocha, the one on the side of your coffee cup. It was literally a port city, the only place on Earth for centuries where you could buy coffee internationally. Right up until the mid-1600s, the Ottomans and the sultans of Yemen controlled the entire global coffee supply. Every single bean that left Yemen was first roasted deliberately so it couldn't be replanted anywhere else. Biological sabotage. That's how serious coffee had become. From Yemen, coffee spread like wildfire. Mecca, Medina, Cairo, Damascus, Baghdad, and wherever it landed, something remarkable happened. Coffeehouses. These places, called Khaneh, weren't just somewhere to get a drink, they were places to argue politics, play chess, read, share news. They were called the schools of the wise. And that is the moment powerful people started to get very, very nervous. 1511, Mecca. A governor named Khair decided that coffee was a threat to the social order. His actual problem was what was happening inside those coffee houses. People were gathering, people were talking, people were forming opinions, and some of those opinions were about him. So Khair ordered the beans burned, had coffee houses shut down, and this is genuinely true, had coffee drinkers beaten in the streets. It was, historically speaking, one of the most spectacular overreactions to a hot beverage ever recorded. Here's the kicker. His boss, Sultan al-Ashraf Kansu al-Ghuri, heard what Khair had done and sent back a response that was basically, "What are you doing? Stop it." The ban collapsed almost immediately. When Italian merchants brought coffee into Europe through Venice around 1600, the Catholic clergy came marching to Pope Clement VIII demanding he condemn it. They called it the bitter invention of Satan. The Pope decided he should taste it first. He loved it. He blessed it. By 1645, Venice had its first proper European coffee house. And within decades, the idea had spread across the entire continent like caffeine through a bloodstream. But nowhere did coffee houses reshape civilization more dramatically than in London. By the early 1700s, London had over 2,000 coffee houses. 2,000! In a city that didn't even have 1 million people yet. For the price of 1 penny, literally 1 penny, you could walk into a London coffee house, buy your coffee, and sit there as long as you wanted. Read the papers, join a debate, pitch a business, listen to a scientist. This is why they were called penny universities. And the names of the people who showed up are not small. Isaac Newton, Samuel Pepys, John Dryden, Alexander Pope. These were the intellectual architects of the modern world doing their best thinking over coffee in a room full of strangers. Lloyd's of London, one of the most powerful insurance markets on earth, still operating today, started as a coffee house. Edward Lloyd opened his coffee house near the Port of London around 1686. Merchants, ship owners, and sea captains gathered there to share shipping intelligence and eventually began selling insurance on vessels right there at the tables. Jonathan's Coffee House, founded in 1680 in Exchange Alley, became the meeting place for traders and brokers. In 1698, John Castang began posting the first regular prices of stocks and commodities there. It eventually became the London Stock Exchange, the stock market, modern insurance, the scientific revolution. All of them bubbled up from rooms where people were drinking bean water that started with some frenzied goats in Ethiopia. Your brain produces a chemical called adenosine. Think of adenosine as your body's built-in tired signal. The longer you stay awake, the more adenosine accumulates, the more it binds to receptors in your brain, and the sleepier you feel. It's a beautiful, elegant system. Now, caffeine is shaped almost identically to adenosine at the molecular level. So when caffeine enters your bloodstream and reaches your brain, it slots directly into those adenosine receptors, like a fake key in a real lock, and blocks them completely. The adenosine is still piling up. Your body is still getting tired. It just can't tell your brain about it. Result? You feel awake, sharp, alert, ready to debate Ottoman trade policy with total strangers at 11 p.m. But here's the part your biology teacher probably skipped. Your brain notices the receptors are being blocked, so it grows more receptors, more adenosine binding sites, more sensitivity, which means when the caffeine eventually wears off, all that accumulated adenosine crashes into all those extra receptors at once, and you crash hard, which is of course exactly why you need another coffee. The adenosine is playing a very, very long game, and in 2025, researchers published a study in Nature that found caffeine doesn't just block tiredness, it actually increases brain complexity, pushing your neural activity toward a critical regime, a state where the brain is most sensitive, most adaptable, and processes information most efficiently. So the Sufi monks staying up to pray, the Ottoman intellectuals debating in coffeehouses, the London scientists scribbling equations, they were all completely unknowingly running the exact same neurological optimization program. Coffee wasn't just a beverage, it was a cognitive upgrade, a wild berry on an ancient African plateau, a goat herder who paid attention, monks who pulled beans out of a fire, Yemeni traders who built the world's first agricultural monopoly, a Meccan governor who panicked, a pope who tasted it and blessed it. 2.25 billion cups a day, the second most traded commodity on Earth, the drink that helped build the stock market, sparked the scientific revolution, and fueled every writer, thinker, and troublemaker who ever stayed up too late trying to change the world. Not bad for a goat snack. Now, if this story got you, just wait until you hear what happened when coffee finally crossed the Atlantic. The story involves colonial rebellion, a very famous harbor in Boston, and a moment that redrew the entire map of the modern world. That video is already queued up. It's right there. Don't go anywhere.